Hey, how you doing? It's Adam Post. Hollywood has already started using AI to replace animators. I do a lot of stories about how Hollywood is replacing people and laying people off. They're doing this. They have processes in place now. Hollywood's use of AI in animation is going to change animation very, very soon, and it's already changing it. Coming from Variety, training AI models shows benefit for animation, but raises ethical and legal questions. This thumbnail I made with AI, I make most of my thumbnails with AI. Sometimes it's a photo source off the internet. But what you can do with tools like Midjourney and other AI generation platforms is really pretty amazing. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. And now, animators in Hollywood are being directly affected. Training AI models on artist and animator work is a new prospect offered by generative AI and is being explored as part of an animated content workflow by independent AI studios. So these separate studios that provide content to Hollywood studios are setting themselves up just to exclusively take work from human animators, and this is new content for the most part produced by human animators, and then training their own models based on those human animators' work, able to take a few drawings of a few buildings and generate an entire city out of that, and then have that stored in their computers to regenerate it anytime they want to. They're also able to get consistency with it. I've looked into this a little bit for comic books. It doesn't look like it's anywhere near ready for sequential art storytelling and all the consistent characters you really need for comic books, so it's not really practical for that. But it seems quite practical for animation because there's a lot of money already being spent on animation. And for the studios, if they can take $100 or a $200 million project and do it for, like, say, even half the money, they're thrilled to do that, but it's really putting animators in a difficult spot. But the prospect of using generative AI for animation still poses bigger picture ethical and legal challenges for the industry. A few independent AI studios are positioning to produce animated content assisted by generative AI. Asteria Film is focused on making films, while Invisible Universe and Toonstar are launching original animated character IP on social media. Asteria and Invisible Universe describe their AI production workflow customizing a pre-trained image or video generation model using a curated batch of original art assets to create a unique custom model based on a specific character, franchise world, or art style. The technical term for such model customization is fine-tuning, wherein a pre-trained model is further trained on a smaller dataset to enhance its capabilities. In the context of fine-tuning an image or a video model, new outputs from the custom model will more closely match the data used to fine-tune. This custom model can then be internally retained in private, meaning no outputs are shared back with the underlying LLM. An LLM in this context is a large language model, a model that uses neural networks to understand and generate language based on the data it's trained on. LLMs can perform a variety of tasks, including summarizing text, answering questions, translating languages, assisting with creative writing or code generation, and in this case, generating art. Sources describe this process being done, and it's seen as creatively viable for animation. In-house artists or animators develop a core set of original concept art representative of the original character or project. These assets form the dataset used to train any foundational image or video model the studio prefers. For example, using something called Stable Diffusion, which is the basis for Midjourney. The resulting fine-tuned model can then be used to drive subsequent content creation, whether producing outputs that replicate the studio's specific characters or an aesthetic style present in the art assets. So new art is created, and then that new art becomes the basis and the reference for generative art that comes out of the AI. So it would be as if you were going to draw something and you said, well, let me get a picture of a building, let me get some style references from some other people too. In this case, this is new work that they created as a guide to use as source material for the generative AI, so they own the work that they are copying from. And then that new work that is created by the generative AI becomes all of the work that the company owns. It's not owned like public domain or anything like that. It's not owned by everyone because it's sourced off of work that they actually own. It gets complicated. It's fascinating. but unfortunately, it's also really bad for animators. Studio teams see fine-tuning as a way of executing on original intellectual property developed in-house. Sources reflected that training custom models speeded and scaled artistic output while remaining visually consistent with the original intellectual property or project. For example, all of Invisible Universe's original character IP have their own custom model accessible in the studio's workflow solution, called Invisible Studio, each of which was trained on original artwork created by the studio's team of in-house artists. These models subsequently drive much of the content creation for the IP on social platforms. So they use their human artists to create the original material, and then from those human artists, use generative AI to create new material based on those human artists. Quote, for us as IP holders, pre-trained models didn't know our characters. They were turning them into Pixar or DreamWorks characters, according to Trisha Biggio, CEO at Invisible Universe. We've customized models trained on data we own for IPs that we own. And here they did a survey for people that are doing multiple variations of work on content for Hollywood studios. They asked them this question: to what extent will generative AI impact the following entertainment industry roles in the next 2 years? That's 24 months, very soon. And then they note, in this case, impact means any change to the current way these roles are performed. Animators are at the top of the list. 55% of them feel it's going to change the way they work. Visual effects artists, 50%. Game developers, 43%. But this also goes to voice actors, concepts and storyboard artists, film editors, screenwriters. Screenwriters are at 36%. Composers, 34%. Even makeup artists, they're at the very bottom. But makeup artists, 16% of them think it's going to have a major impact on the way they work. Makeup artists, because I guess they're going to add makeup with AI. Asteria also described fine-tuning as having value in its animation workflow, where the studio has many skilled in-house artists and animators develop original assets used to fine-tune. Filmmaker and director Paul Trillo, who recently joined Asteria as a strategic advisor, noted a particular 2D animated project where 6 cell animators were involved in creating the foundational art assets that have gone into model training to help the studio execute at a high quality in the production timeline needed by a client. Quote, our artists build out the world themselves and define the style. For one project, our artists drew the main character from every single pose and angle, a handful of background characters, and 4 buildings. Then we can go and make a whole city out of that, and it retains the artist's style, said Trillo. Quote, it allows us to do this world building and iterating faster rather than having the artist do each and every thing. A commonly referenced method of custom model training is creating LoRAs, which refer to low-rank adaptation. Sources suggested that an IP or specific project could involve creating and applying a set of distinct LoRAs, such as one for a specific character and another for the animation style. Quote, the LoRA acts as kind of a filter or lens to output images that are more brand or IP accurate. I think potentially every show, movie, or brand is going to have their own LoRAs, according to Eric Shamlin, CEO at AI-centric studio Secret Level, adding that each of its own properties in development has its own or multiple related LoRAs. Yet even with the positives described above, fine-tuning for content creation still holds a plausible degree of ethical and legal risk for studios. Likewise, even as a few AI studios and independent creators pursue new methods, sources told Variety the major traditional studios still see legal and consumer backlash risks as reasons not to use AI for consumer-facing content. And consumer-facing is directly the content that consumers see. Right now, and I've covered this in other articles, studios are using AI to help generate new ideas, to help generate character designs, storyboards, concept art, and art for animation. Fine-tuning at best minimizes but does not eliminate the risk that outputs from the custom model would infringe others' copyright, as Variety has previously discussed. Even though studios are fine-tuning on assets they've developed and own, the underlying image or video foundation model has often been trained on unlicensed copyrighted material that could nevertheless materialize in outputs. For its part, Asteria says it will transition to use Mari, a clean AI image and video model being developed by its AI developer partner Moon Valley, which the company says is being trained exclusively on licensed and purchased data. Quote, no scrape data will be part of the pipeline once that becomes available, according to Trillo. The new ability of a studio to train a model on assets a hired artist creates, and then the studio will own, would seem to signal potential for talent exploitation and diminish future opportunities for artists and animators in Hollywood animation departments or game studio art departments. Notably, the Animation Guild's newly ratified agreement wasn't able to secure proposed restrictions against training on artist assets provided on the job, which would include the possibility of model fine-tuning. The problem with an agreement like that would be if you're on a salary and you're in a work-for-hire kind of situation, your employer does need to own that work in pretty much every case. And it depends on exactly what's being contributed where, but if you're in a studio and you're drawing Pixar characters, you're not going to have an artist say, hey, I own the rights to that character. You can't use my work this way or that way, particularly because in a studio environment, a lot of people are contributing to different parts of the process. So who's going to own what percentage of this or percentage of that? They may as well just pay like a few of the animators a lot of money and then use generative AI, which is probably what's going to start to happen. Unfortunately, though, it is going to take jobs away from people who might be really solid professionals, but maybe they're not the best of the best, because you still need the best of the best to create, like, what is the character really going to look like? How is it going to be like incredible and iconic? AI is maybe going to be able to do that in the future, but it still seems to need to leverage off of someone else's work. So you can have a studio of artists there, but you really kind of need to have top people, and top people do tend to always make top money anyway. But I don't know how you could possibly get new people into a field doing work the way it used to be done, like the old way. For new people, they're going to have to learn AI and they're going to have to utilize AI. And then the best people who will still make top money are going to have to be very good at utilizing AI, and they're going to have to be quite comfortable with it. And if they're not, I don't see how they're going to be able to continue in this field like whatsoever. Artist sources confided to Variety that the artist community has already been experiencing layoffs, fall-offs in work, and unusual decreases in compensation this year. So they're losing work and then they're paying less the people that are staying. That is not a good sign. Though it's hard to directly attribute that to all of generative AI, its impact is also hard to ignore. And this is cutting edge of what's going on in Hollywood right now. People are losing jobs. They're getting paid less if they're able to even keep their jobs. Visual effects artists have also been replaced categorically because they can't do real-time AI-style visual effects that a director can actually look while they're on set and see what the impact of the AI work is on their special effects, compared to visual effects, which is done much, much later in the production process. You can imagine that even prevents the need to have to do certain reshoots because you're seeing, like, on site what's actually going on with the work when you can add the visual effects in real time. I've tested some of this. I subscribe to Midjourney. I've used this art. I've used referenced art that I own the rights to create some new artwork and test some things out. Hollywood is now routinely using this kind of work for presentation material, to pitch new ideas and to rework old ideas. Ultimately, though, Hollywood's been in trouble. It continues to be in trouble. And we can't run away from technology. We have to embrace technology, understand it, figure out how to use it to our advantage. I'll cover that as much as I can on this channel, and I'll let you know how my work is turning out. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.